Why should there be libraries in the world? Author Yang Suqiu. Why should there be libraries in the world? The question sounds simple, almost rhetorical. But the book with this title turns that simplicity into a lived, gritty, and very tender investigation. It follows the slow work of building a public library where none existed, and from that one concrete project, it draws a larger argument about what libraries do, and why they matter so deeply to the human heart. Below is a compact summary of the book's arc and a longer reflection that tries to capture the emotional core the author reveals how a library becomes, against odds, a place where dignity, memory, and hope quietly gather. Summary. The book begins with a problem that many cities and towns share: a neighborhood with no accessible public reading space, where books are rare, and where official attention favors showcase projects rather than small, nourishing institutions. The narrator, a person with experience in literature and public culture who is asked to help found or revive a local library, takes on the job. From the outset, the work is shaped by obstacles: budgets that vanish, buildings that turn out to be less than ideal, rules and procedures that channel resources into packaged book deliveries instead of carefully chosen collections, and the delicate politics of doing visible cultural work inside bureaucratic systems. Most of the book's concrete drama lies in these small, stubborn negotiations: convincing officials to put money into books rather than marble, convincing staff and funders that a modest, well-selected collection has more value than a showy space with little substance, navigating an archaeological delay that forces the library underground, and resisting the ease of accepting bulk, low-quality library kits that would fill shelves but not minds. Interspersed with administrative scenes are intimate moments: a child discovering a picture book and widening with wonder, an elderly reader who treats the lending desk as a lifeline, a volunteer who mends torn pages like a ritual of care. These vignettes humanize the project and make the case that a library's true metric is not its square footage or headline ribbon cutting, but the private, small transformations it makes in everyday people's lives. In the end, the library opens, imperfect and humble. Its success is not a grand public statement, but a series of private recoveries: a young person who finds a book that changes a future choice, a neighbor who finds companionship in late afternoons among stacks, a community that suddenly has a neutral, shared place to meet and think. The book closes not with triumphant certainty, but with a renewed question: if a small library can do this work, what responsibility does the rest of society have to sustain such places? Reflection: why the story moved me. Reading this book felt like watching a slow, quiet rescue mission. The rescue wasn't dramatic in the cinematic way. There were no headline-grabbing reversals, no sweeping gestures. Instead, the book staged an ethics of attention: the slow refusal to let something small and necessary remain absent from the world. That refusal is what makes the narrative moving. First, the book reminded me that libraries are instruments of equality. In an age when information can be gated by paywalls, algorithms, or simple cost, the public library stands as a radical counterclaim. Knowledge and imagination belong to everyone. The author's insistence on selecting books with care, not merely accepting whatever publishers or suppliers push through official channels, is an act of moral stewardship. Choosing books for a community is not neutral. It is an act of listening, of asking who is here and what they urgently need. That humility thrilled me. It's a reminder that public institutions do not have to be grand to be righteous. They only need to be attentive. Second, the book made me understand libraries as shelters for the interior life. In the descriptions of the underground reading room, a space with little daylight but with lamps and narrow windows giving occasional glimpses of sky, I felt the book's central metaphor: a library as a lantern house. People come in from the noise of the city and find a different economy, one measured in silence and pages rather than likes or metrics. The story of the elderly woman who reads aloud to herself in the corner, or the boy who reads under the table because a shy seating habit comforts him, felt like testimony. These are not merely scenes of consumption, They are scenes of recovery. For many, a library is the first place in which reading is not tested, measured, or monetized. It is simply allowed to be an intimate companion. Third, the book wrestled with the tension between form and soul. It is so easy to mistake the outward appearance of a cultural project, big architecture, glossy launches, TV-friendly speeches, for its essence. The narrator fights that mistake at every turn, arguing that the soul of a library is its collection, its staff, and the relationships that form around it. This felt like a moral lesson. Invest in what people actually use. Give them things that expand their inner life. Build places where books are chosen because they will be argued with, loved, and returned to by real readers. Fourth, the book is a moving portrait of quiet courage. The protagonist, who sometimes feels like a single, persistent voice in a room full of indifferent bureaucrats, does not change the world by storming institutions. Instead, change arrives through stubborn fidelity, showing up to meetings, writing careful notes, choosing books, listening to the neighbors. That form of courage is less glamorous, but more durable. It is the courage of care, the sort that refuses to let a necessary thing be neglected. Finally, and most importantly, the book made me feel the human relational arc that libraries enable. Books are often described as tools for learning or databases for information. But here they are portrayed as bridges, between generations, between the educated and the curious, between people who would otherwise be strangers. The library becomes a place where memory accumulates in ordinary ways. Mended pages, pencil inscriptions, borrower's notes tucked like small time capsules. Those details made the book deeply moving. The proof that public life is built not just by policy, but by repeated small acts of attention and preservation. A call to action, not rhetorical, practical. If this book left me with a softened heart, it also left me with practical urgency. Libraries need champions, readers who volunteer, neighbors who teach small classes, folks who donate not only money but time. The book does not romanticize. It shows how fragile a small library can be, but it also shows how powerful that fragility is. A single shelf of carefully chosen books can change a life. The call is modest, therefore achievable. Care for the places that teach us how to imagine better futures. Closing, the quiet answer. So why should there be libraries in the world? Because they are repositories not only of books, but of possibility. They hold quiet spaces where people can fail, wonder, and begin anew. They are scaffolding for private thought and public life, for solitary imaginings and shared conversations. In a time that prizes speed, libraries remind us how rare it is to be patient with a page. In the book's final echoes, I felt a deep conviction. When we build or protect a library, we make room for the slow, steady work of becoming more humane. We do not simply put books on shelves. We place light where it may otherwise have been absent. The end. If you'd like to see more reviews of best-selling books, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.